All right. We are here live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Thank you so much, Joe, for for agreeing to join today. For folks that are not familiar or kind of just jumping in on the live, this is the first of a series of sessions that are really tailored for the Launchpad Collective community, which is for folks that are building a portfolio career, starting a side hustle, launching freelance work, have just a variety of income streams, which I happen to believe is the wave of the future. And so I've invited a few guests with different subject matter expertise. Joe, particularly on his advertising and branding background. Joe, I would love if you could give a little bit of information about yourself, and if you want to kind of jump in on the material that you have to share, like so everyone knows, I've asked these experts to share a handful of items that are either often overlooked or there's misconceptions or things that are really useful, and that's what Joe will be doing today. But yeah, Joe, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
No problem. Thank you very much. It's good to be here. I've been in the advertising world for roughly 30 years, just shy of. This is basically all I know. I've been both an art director and a writer, so I know both sides of that. Also, a little bit of graphic design, and I am currently the creative lead at Cave Wall Creative. It's an agency that I formed a few months ago, and it's a lot of fun. I always wanted to have fun. It's why I went into this field, and I'm still having a lot of fun. And I'm finding to help people succeed while I'm having a great time and watch them have a good time is awesome, because I know trying to start one's own brand is a very stressful time. You have lots of anxieties, lots of jitters, and to be able to help somebody enjoy that time instead of feel duress and be like, you know what, this is a fantastic journey. I'm so happy I'm taking it, and I get to
Mhm.
play a part in that. So it's a huge privilege.
Yeah, and so I will insert myself here because I know we tend to be humble about our experience and our background, but I know a little bit about you, right? I think you've worked in different size agencies. You've worked with some big names. It would be really helpful, I think, if you wouldn't mind sharing just a little bit, right? If you don't feel comfortable sharing some names, that's totally
No.
cool. But just so people get an idea of your level of experience in different areas.
Yeah, I've worked at really small ad agencies, which is actually my preference. I like the personal touch that's involved with that. But I've worked at huge agencies, BBDO, they're worldwide, FCB's worldwide. Donor is an agency out of Detroit, but they're huge. That was actually my favorite place I ever worked. But I've touched on brands like Ram Truck, Dodge NASCAR, Mopar, EA Video Games, Del Taco, a little bit of Levi's. So, I've worked on brands that are common in America. You know, I remember once I was at Buffalo Wild Wings during sporting events, and we were sitting there, and at that time, four different TVs had four different commercials I had made playing at the same time, and it was a really
Very
surreal
cool.
experience. And each screen had a different one because I had a lot on the air at the time. So yeah, I've definitely dipped my toes in the water pretty deep.
Nice, nice. Thank you for sharing that because
Yeah.
I think that context matters, right? Is like not just theory, but it's things you've actually seen in practice and seen what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, and I'll give you an opportunity to kind of share some of your points that you think are really key for people to think about as they're starting their own brand.
Absolutely. So that being the case, shall we jump into this or?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I'm just trying to be polite.
yeah.
So I have basically six talking points that I wanted to go over today, and I figure I'll talk about each one and then pause and see if you have any questions to help guide the conversation or that you think that our listeners may be interested in. So our
Yeah.
first point is about a perception shift, and this has to do with what advertising is versus what it isn't. It is not an afterthought to handle with leftover funds or something to get out of the way cheaply. That's a common mistake a lot of people do when they first start a business because, I'm starting my own right now. It's hard. Money isn't rolling in the doors the first month, so you really want to be careful with how you spend it. But your advertising isn't really where you want to cut a corner. I always tell people they need to invest in themselves, and that's what it is. When you do your branding and your advertising, it really is an investment, and you get returns according to what you put in. So simply put, you do need to spend a little bit of money to make a little bit of money. But to get an effective return in your investment, you really have to choose the right partner. That's key. Like anything you invest in, you want to be wary. Too often I've seen businesses start and the people they hire are unqualified because they're looking for cheap. They're not looking for good, and that's a big pitfall. Because remember, when you build your brand, you're representing who you really are. So if you're looking at friends, family members, students, or a sign shop, you're not working with people that are qualified to get your business off the ground in an effective manner. I have this illustration. How many of us would trust our investing our retirement fund in the hands of a high school student because we heard they were good at math? We wouldn't do that. That'd be dangerous and destructive. But rather, when you talk about investing in your retirement fund, you look at people's credentials, you look at their experience, and you want to trust your money with someone that can get you a return, not just keep your money even. You want someone that's going to propel you going forward. And really, we need to exercise that same discernment with our brands, because it's vital. It's vital to the lifeblood of who we are. The next point I wanted to touch on in the same vein is our logo. Oftentimes, that's the first impression that one gets to make on the market. And we want to make a good first impression. We always hear that, right? From the time you're young, you get one first impression, and perception becomes a reality. If you want to make an impact and be remembered, don't settle on a lesser image of yourself, because you're not big yet. That's something that people tend to do. They say, "Well, I'm small, so I'm going to start smaller. I can have a humble logo." When it comes to our brand and our logos, that's not the time to be humble. The reality is, who do you want to be one day? When you look at the future, who are you trying to be with your organization? Not who are you right now? Who are you trying to be? What is your aspiration? And you build your brand to reflect your aspiration, because the way people perceive you is going to become your reality. So if you're perceived as a big thriving brand, people will interact with you as a big thriving brand, and it'll help you get to your goals much sooner versus thinking that you'll handle that at another date. You get there by the impression you make on day one. So this means having a design and advertising partner that isn't just skilled at graphic design. That's not enough. They also need to understand strategy, target audiences, long-term goals, and how to partner with you, because they should be your partner. It shouldn't be someone you just hire. They should be someone that you can have long conversations with, that get to know you and how to make you succeed. And this is really how you're going to get to the next step with your brand. So that was kind of my first section that I wanted to talk about. Xander, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's as much a question as maybe an observation, and if it prompts anything on your end, but part of my background is in accounting, right? And what was going through my mind as you were talking through that and saying it's really an investment, right? From an accounting perspective, if you're gonna whatever get office supplies or um, certain expenses around you for the purposes of your business, it's an expense, right? It's like you're not throwing money away, right? But the money is going out the door and you're getting
Oh yeah.
something that is temporary or disposable. But when we talk investments, at least, in the accounting world, it's really an asset, right? It's something that you're putting in many cases, money so that you can have some other type of asset, something that you're building on, something that will hopefully, accumulate value if you're investing. So that was something that came up for me as you were talking through, right? It's not just like a thing that you have to do or a thing that you can bypass. It can really be an accelerator for what you're doing. So I'm curious, right? Like, I know that's not exactly a question, other than like, what are your thoughts on what I said?
I think it's a good observation. And one thing I'd say is, when you do talk about buying things for a business when you first start off, the reality is a lot of it's disposable. Um, whether it's something as simple as the pens and pencils you use that you're going to dispose of and get rid
Mhm.
of, or even your first computer you get for your company. You might be like, I'm later going to upgrade my computer system and operation system. And those are all things that happen with time. And the reality is, those things are short-term investments, right? Even a pencil is a short-term investment. You need to use it. But they're short-term investments that don't often have a return. And the point I was trying to make is the way we create our brand and our logo specifically, that's a long-term investment. It's not a throwaway. And if it's done right, you'll never have to redo it again. So I do urge people to look at their branding as a long-term investment. Very few things they do the first few months they start a company will be a long-term investment, unless it's the relationships that they make with others. The relationships can be indelible, but so can your brand. And that's why I highlighted that fact of reaching for your aspiration right off the gate, right out of the gate. You don't want to be
Mhm.
like, I don't mind looking janky for a little bit, but eventually I'm going to look top tier. If you come across as lower end, people are going to view you as lower end. If you come across as top tier, which you can do when you're ready to do it, all you have to do is have the right partner. That's how you'll be viewed, and you're going to get there exponentially faster than if you say, I'll handle that later. So you really do need to view your brand as a long-term investment.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I want to be mindful of time, and I know you've got a number of points, so please go
Oh,
ahead.
absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
So the next point I want to bring up, and this is one I find a lot of new businesses do, and even sometimes established businesses, and that's over communicate, which I know sounds like a weird thing because you think, well, but people need to know my brand, so I have to tell them about it. That's true. But when was the last time any one of us saw an ad in a magazine or pop up on the internet and we stop and we read every bullet point and all the body copy? The reality is we don't do it. I don't know anybody that does it. And if you're listening and you say I do it, God bless you. Someone really appreciates that you did that. But the majority of people this day like instant gratification, and they just don't have the time anymore. So I know this may sound harsh, but nobody cares about the kitchen sink but you when it comes to your brand. The consumer isn't interested in the kitchen sink. So the more information you pack into a message, the greater the chance your audience will disengage.
Mm,
So again, I know that you're thinking like, but I have one shot. I'm going to tell them everything. If you tell them everything, they're going to walk away. You lost them. So you really need to be careful. Also, inside baseball or shop talk, it doesn't impress people. I know a lot of brands where, they get caught up on, I'll be writing a script and the client gets caught up on the vernacular. Well, technically we say, but that technicality is exactly that, what they say. It's not what the consumer says. It's not the way the consumer thinks. So when we do that, we actually end up isolating our brand from our demographic. We end up putting our brand over here and our demographic over there, and we create this gulf because we made
mhm.
something inclusive for ourselves, not inclusive for them. So you want to make sure you're speaking to your consumer, not speaking for your own good. And it's really tough to find that mark and where to be careful with it. But it's something I warn everybody because it really is off-putting to the consumer. I've seen countless ads or TV commercials where people bury themselves doing this. And I'm sure you've seen it where there's just too
Mhm.
many facts or
Mhm.
there's corporate speak. And you're just thinking like, oh my goodness, I really wish I paid for a better subscription where I didn't have to watch TV commercials. This is awful. But that's what happens when somebody packs into too much information. So this means finding a new, more accessible way to get your point across. So again, when you pick an advertising partner, It should be someone that educates themselves deeply on your brand. And that's who you talk to, by the way. You don't educate the consumer about everything about your brand. You take your marketing partner, someone like me, and you educate me. You give me the kitchen sink. You give me the inside
Oh,
baseball. You
uh-huh.
tell me every detail that you wish people knew about you. And then if you have a discerning partner on the advertising side, they're going to say, well, it sounds like this is what's most important. And then it trickles down in this order. But if we can get people to talk about this topic right here, you've won. And then they're going to be interested in you. And then they'll do the research on their terms. And then they'll see the rest of the points. But it's
Mm,
making sure that you have a partner that helps you create a narrative in a way that's digestible and enjoyable by the consumers. So that's a really important thing to do. And you want to be memorable. I can't emphasize that enough. And again, when somebody has a really long conversation with you, what are the chances you remember the whole conversation? But if somebody comes up to you and says something profound or something you haven't thought of in one sentence, you might never forget it. And that's the value of synthesizing your message. So that's point two. Again, I'm
okay.
going to pause here and let Xandra react.
Yeah, no, I think you stated it very eloquently, and I think the takeaway, I mean, for me, the takeaway is having the right partner can really be key in terms of interpreting and messaging of what any company may have, right? So the company is the expert on the company. The partner is going to take in all that information, pick out what may be more valuable for audiences, and sort of repackage it. And if there's a good partnership there, they can regurgitate it in an easily consumable way, right? So like if a partner
100%.
is saying, "Oh, it should be this," and you're like, "Oh no, that's not at all what I was saying. That's not at all what we do," then maybe that's a sign it's not the best partner.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. I look at it this way, Xandra, is like newspapers or books, they have editors for a reason. Those editors become subject matter experts on the topic of that piece of literature, and then they help the writer synthesize it to the world. In a lot of ways, a company is trying to tell their story to the world. In that sense, every company is its own author of its story. But your creative partner is your editor that helps synthesize it, becomes an expert on your brand, and tell it to the world in a way that's best delivered.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
What else do you have for us, Joe?
All right. Point three. Simply put, why should anybody care? If your audience does not know you, why should they take a moment out of their busy day and listen to learn about you? It comes down to your differentiator. What makes your brand unique or stand out? What do you do that nobody else does or that you do better than the rest? Consumers need a profound stake in the ground that represents their needs or desires. They have to stop and say, whoa, I was looking for somebody that does that. I didn't know that you guys did that. You need to hit them with something that draws them in and then keeps their interests. However, and this is where it gets tricky, what if you don't have a truly unique selling point? This happens a lot. I have a lot of experiences working with credit unions. And one thing I found is most credit unions, they'll tell you they're unique, but then once you interview them, they'll realize they're not. And that's not a slight on credit unions at all. But the reality is they're all working with numbers that are provided to them by the government, right? They don't get to set the numbers. The numbers are given to
Mhm.
them. So at the end of the day, they all pretty much become the same. They all become the same. So what if that's where your brand falls under? What if you're like, you know what? I make a really, really good product. In fact, you can't make it better than mine. But there's a few other guys I know that make it just as good as me. So what do you do?
Mhm.
Well, if that's the case, then you need to claim the space to break through the clutter. So what do I mean by that? I mean, finding a truism about your brand that's memorable and resonates with consumers' hearts and minds and own it before anybody else goes on record of doing so. So again, if you're the first person that says, I do this better than anyone because of X, Y, and Z, and even if the other guy does the exact same thing, if you said it first, if you get that message out
Mm,
first, you own it then. And then if they say it after you say it, it makes them look like a copycat. It looks like they're trying to
yeah.
be like the original. And guess what? You're the original. So again, that's the value of a really great partner is they will ask you questions and they'll find that profound truism that you may take for granted. To you, it might be like, well, this is just what I do. And in all humility, you might mean it, but someone like me might be like, yeah, that's all you do, but that's amazing. And we need to tell that story and people won't forget it. You know, a really quick story is when I was working on Ram Truck Month. I'm sure we've all seen Truck Month commercials. And if we're going to be honest, it's hard to remember which one was Chevy, which one was Dodge, which one was Ford. They're all very similar. They talk about the same things. Our engine is strong. Our truck can pull a lot. It's like, oh, okay. So, something that Dodge took for granted was that their engines in their 2500 series trucks are Cummins engines. Now, if you're listening to me right now, you're saying, well, who cares if it's a Cummins engine? Well, I did research on Cummins engines. They were invented by making engines for locomotives. And then they
Mm,
took that technology and adapted it rather, to make engines for trucks. So I made this whole commercial about a lot of people wish they could say that their truck is as strong as a locomotive, but only one truck really is. The one that
ah,
shares the same engine as a train, the Cummins engine. Again, I took something that the folks at Dodge just took for granted. Like, yeah, we got a Cummins. And I made a true story about it. And it ended up being one of the most successful Truck Month commercials they ever ran on the air.
wow.
I think they doubled sales that year from the previous year's Truck Month. Um, so it's just profound how you can find something that you, as a business owner, might be like, well, of course I do this. And just through the right interview process, someone can pull a pearl out of that and say, hey, everyone, look at this. And you can make the whole world say, wow. So if you don't have that differentiator, make sure somebody finds out why you're amazing and shares it before anybody else shares it, because then you're the one. And that's what you want to be.
Yeah. So
Um,
there's always a way to differentiate. Like
exactly.
even like yeah, it's I was curious where that was gonna land for the poor credit unions of the world, but like there's always something that you can pull that's unique to any
Mhm.
given company. Yeah.
Yeah, so if going back to credit unions, it might be about the way it might be a true story. I'm just, kind of
Yeah.
riffing off the spot, but it might be like a true story about someone that you helped in a profound way in your community. It might be about all credit unions like to talk about the community, but it may be the way one specific credit union stepped up and did something literally for their community. It might be about how they go the extra mile with their customer service and they greet you in X, Y, and Z way. So it's all about like, what did you do or what do you do with your brand that feels really special, that make people
Hmm.
feel really great? And then just be the first person to claim that you did it. And then the same thing, it doesn't matter whether or not you're the only one that did it, you're the one that said it. And then it makes everybody else a copy of you. And nobody
Yeah.
wants to go to the copy, they want to go to the original.
Yeah. 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 Cool. Oh, what else? What else? Now I'm dying to see what the other points are.
All right, point four. Make sure your message gets in front of the right people. I know that sounds obvious. We all are like, yeah, I'm gonna get my message in front of the right people. They'll hear about me. But no matter how much you spend on creative, and a lot of creatives are gonna gag when I say this, but it doesn't matter how much you spend on creative or how good the creative is. If you don't get it in front of the right people at the right time, it's ineffective creative.
Hmm.
I could make the world's greatest TV commercial ever, but if it's in English and it's playing in Spain, it's not going to resonate with anyone. Now that's an over dramatic.
Right.
I'm being overly dramatic with that illustration, but the point is, you need to hit the right consumer at the right time with your message or it's lost. So lots of agencies would love to take your money. And, I'm going to say things during the second half of this presentation that are really going to call most advertising agencies out. So let me give this disclaimer really quick. A lot of agencies are self-serving. A lot of them are selfish. A lot of them are trying to make a quick buck off of you. And they're not going to tell you these things, unfortunately, because they're more interested in making the money. Um, I do think that form of advertising is slowly but surely dying. I think the future of advertising is one of transparency, honesty, and integrity. I don't think we're there yet. But when I started up my company, that was one of the big things I promised my wife and my coworkers I was going to do is have the most honest, transparent agency I can make. So part of that honesty and transparency is knowing where your dollars go. A lot of those agencies, they just want to take your money and say, yes, I'm going to do a media buy for you. Just let me handle it. I'm the expert. 9 times out of 10, this is not going to be a highly strategic placement. Um, I can't be more clear about that. So they'll work with a big brand and they'll wow you with names. They love name dropping. They're going to say, they'll take a small business and say, you know what, we're going to use Google to get your message out there. And what happens when you're a small business? You hear Google and you're like, ooh, I'm kind of a big deal now. Google's working with me. But the reality is Google throws out a wide net that reaches tons of people, but that doesn't mean that it's strategically delivered. Again, I could go out in the ocean and say, hey, I want bluefin tuna for lunch today. And I could throw out a net all day and not catch one bluefin. I might get tons of other fish, but I never set out to do what I wanted to do. And that's what Google does when they throw out their nets and their placements for people. They're casting a wide net. So if you know what you're out there hunting for, which is your demographic, the person that needs your brand, you want to have the right bait, you want to have the right lure, you want to go to the right fishing spot. There's a lot of information you need to know before you can capture the audience you want to capture. I hope that's making sense.
Yeah.
So,
It definitely is.
um, as an honest agency, I'll admit, I have my own limitations. So the truth is, I won't take a media buy on. It's a great way for me to make extra money and to pad my earnings, but I would rather not make money and see you succeed, because if you succeed, you're eventually going to spend more with me anyway, and we're going to have a long lasting relationship. So one thing I do is I partner with another team of experts. I'm very transparent about that. I don't claim it's part of my company. I partner with a second company and I bring them to the table and I would have us meet together. And what they do is get the right message in front of the right people at the right time. It's amazing. I've been working with these guys for about 8 to 10 years. I apologize. I know it's 8 to 10, but I'm never exact with years. But they can literally tell you how many people you're going to reach, along with projecting interactions and interest. They'll tell you how many people are going to interact with your banner. They'll tell you what your increase in site visits is going to be. They'll tell you literal numbers of what you can expect with a media placement that they do. And then not only will you reach your demographic, you won't waste your message on people that wouldn't care. And then they'll also, when it's all said and done, bring you a report and prove to you that it worked. They'll bring you a report and say, see, you had X amount of interactions. We promised, I'm just going to say 1,000. We promised 1,000, you got 1,500. We promised 2,000 site visits, you got 3,000 site visits. So these guys will give you a projection, and they usually project modestly. And then what they'll bring you as a report usually exceeds the projections. So when I work with them and the two of us sit down with you, we give you promises and then we live up to them. And you can hold us accountable because we'll have the data and metrics to show you whether or not it worked. So when a creative agency is honest and they bring in the right partners that are real experts that really know how to target people, that's the closest thing that I can honestly say you're going to get to a sure thing in advertising. Um,
Okay.
and it's pretty incredible.
So,
Xander, you look like you want
so
to touch on this.
yeah. I wanted to, like, I'm thinking through, right? people are at all stages of their business, right? But for the folks particularly that are looking to um, invest in advertisement, and like you said, right, not just throw a wide net or just get it in front of eyeballs, and they're not the right eyeballs, really digging in on what are the metrics, how are we measuring this, right? Not the metric of how many eyeballs, but the metric of where are the eyeballs? So who do the eyeballs belong to? Why do they care? And the the next step after that is like how many website visits, or like what other metrics could people think about? Because I'm kind of guessing here based off what I heard from you, but really thinking through like what questions should people be asking?
Well, the major is, interactions with, let's say, a web banner. I'm gonna use that as an example. Um, you know, everybody can have a web banner pop up in front of them. But then the question is, how many interactions did that web banner get?
Mm,
Or what I mean by that is how many people clicked on that web banner. See, you don't want to just be, I view the internet as kind of like the Vegas Strip. You're driving down it and there's just bright lights everywhere and you don't even know
mhm,
where to rest your eyes.
mhm,
But it's the place that you pull into and become a customer at that one. In that same way, if you have a page full of web banners flanking you left and right, it's the web banner that the consumer clicks on that wins.
okay.
So they'll tell you how many interactions, that's an interaction, you're
Mm,
going to get with your web banners. They'll tell you you're going to have X amount of people at a minimum click on this web banner. And that's a huge win because most people don't. So if they project that many people are going to click on a web banner, that's massive. And then once they click on it, you usually have a chance to go to their website to learn more. Remember earlier I was saying if you give them that profound truism up front that people love, you don't need to put the kitchen sink. They'll dive in on their own and read about it.
mm.
That's what I'm talking about. So if you have a web banner and it's got that headline that hits the consumer right in the head and heart, they're going to click on it on their own, and then on their terms they're going to learn and read more about you, probably going to read way more than you wanted to share with them anyway because they did it on their terms. And those are the kind of metrics they'll give you. They'll tell you how many people are going to be on your website, how many people are going to interact with the banner, things of that nature. And I'll be honest, the way they do it, it's all legal, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's creepy. It's very,
I've been a victim of the creepiness. I'm like, how did you know?
No, absolutely. It's totally creepy. It's all legal. It's not an invasion of privacy technically, but they're gonna if you're into skiing and that's your favorite sport, they're gonna make sure that those skiing ads find you. They're not gonna be in a basketball player's web browser. They're gonna be in your web browser. So they get very specific. But it's been through years and years and years of working with algorithms, working with search engines, working with different computers, working with different networks, and I can't even tell you all the science because again, that's not what I do. Just like I humbly admit it before, that's why I bring them in.
Mhm.
Advertising agencies are not experts at this. There are experts, but it's not about the big name like Google. It's about, who are the guys that are the specialists in this, the ones that don't
Yeah,
cast a wide net. And
yeah.
that's who I bring. So if you called me after this and you said, Joe, I want you to do a campaign with me and I want it to be really targeted, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to bring my friends. We're going to sit down and talk. And they're going to tell you more technical things than you ever wanted to hear in your life. And you're going to see me drinking my coffee and looking bored because they get really technical. But by the time they're done talking, you're going to say, wow, that's exactly what I need. So that's the value of having the right partner.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I won't ask any more questions on that because my brain probably wouldn't comprehend it anyway, Joe.
Hey, and I hope I did an okay job explaining it because, again, it's not
Just
what I do,
perfect.
which is why I said I bring them because I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Um, but on the same topic, let's say also, and this is the fun in working with a malleable agency that, and one that has a partner like my friends. Let's say that you have two really good talking points that month for your company. You're like, I have these two deals. I really want to press both of them forward. Can we do both of them? The answer is yeah. You don't need just one message. I wouldn't recommend throwing 6 deals out there, but if you have two, let's do it. And you don't have to choose. And what we would do, it's called A/B testing. So you have ad A and ad B. If both are getting attention and traction that month, they're both really successful, then you just keep them both out there the whole month. Having guys like my partners that can track the success of them, they may come back to us in a week and say, you know what, A is tracking really well. We're getting a lot of clicks on A, but people don't seem to like B. Not a lot of people are clicking on B. Then what we would do is we would pull B from the market and double up on A because A is really successful. But if they're both running smoothly, we keep them both running at the exact same time, and you're still getting good metrics. So A/B testing is actually a really great thing to do. And again, having right partners that are reactive can help you pull the wrong message before you waste too much time and energy in a media buy that wasn't the best idea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. That makes sense.
and media buy might not be the right, but the media buy was right, but maybe the message for the media buy wasn't right. And that's more accurate. Maybe people don't want to deal on fish sticks that month. It's just not happening because people don't like fish sticks anyway. So if you're Safeway, maybe don't advertise the fish sticks. Maybe advertise the
Maybe
prime rib.
maybe November is not fish stick, it's turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that, the most effective campaigns also use targeting and retargeting messaging. And again, I don't know if you know what that is, but targeting is the first message that you put out there. It's
Okay.
highly strategic. It's targeted to the right individual. Earlier, I mentioned skiing. So let's say Xander loves skiing. So you get one message about skiing, and it tells you about this resort that we're trying to get people to come to. And you say, that looks good, and you click on it. Now we have metrics saying you clicked on that. Then what we will do is 2 weeks later, send you a retargeting. And what it is it's a slightly modified version of the first ad you saw, but that talks about a secondary benefit. So you even have one more reason to be interested. So that's really important, retargeting, because usually targeting gets people's interest, but retargeting pulls them in. It's that second touch that seals the deal. So these are all different benefits from having the right media buying partners.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like I've experienced that on the consumer end. It's like I saw those pants last week and I was
It's gonna happen.
cruising.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so it probably happens with some of the bigger brands you follow
Mhm.
or that you're interested in, because the bigger brands are buying the best media partners to help them do this.
Mhm.
So, a lot of times, and this is what my point was, because my guess is most of the people on this call aren't one of the biggest brands. You're probably not the founder of Nike if you're on this call. You're probably someone like Xander and I who are budding business owners that want to figure out how to be successful. And that's what we're talking about.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, people in our situation usually don't meet the right experts. We usually end up with the advertising agency that claims they can do the media buy, that calls Google and cast a wide net. But with friends like I have, it's an opportunity to zero in and talk to the right people. It's to kind of get the same targeting treatment that the big brands get, but for us little guys. And I love when us little guys get to compete with the big guys. I think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate like that peek behind the curtain because it's so funny. Like my background is either in accounting or IT, and those are areas where I would always say like people can get away with not knowing a whole lot because most people don't know too much about accounting or IT unless you're
Mhm.
in it, right?
Exactly.
So it's hard to differentiate like, okay, does this person really know what they're talking about? Or like what am I going off of because of like how much they're charging me, because they are really good in the sales cycle, like how can I differentiate that? So it's really helpful for you to kind of share, right? The like default for a lot of these larger agencies are just like what is going to get me more money, right?
It is.
Versus like what is actually going to help the client.
Yeah, and that's what I want to see. And so if you know, and for any of those taking notes, you know, again, you want to ask your partner what guarantees that can they give you, what projections can they give you, how often do they meet their projected goals, do they do A/B testing, do they do targeting and retargeting. These are the intelligent kind of conversation starters you want to have with a media buying partner to see if they're really in your corner. Ask them, how strategic are you versus throwing out a wide net? How many people are going to see my message that don't care about my message? You know, take them to task, make them answer your questions. And if they can't give you guarantees and if they can't make you honest promises because that's what they do with integrity, don't waste your money on them. You know, we started today talking about investments. It's a bad investment when someone can't give you a projection and then tell you we're going to give you the follow-up to show you that we kept our word. If they can't do that, don't invest there. It's a bad use of your dollar.
Really good point. Really good point. Wow. Did we get through all your points or do you?
I think we froze for a second. Andrew, you there?
Yeah. I'm here.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, no, I think we froze for a little bit too, but I was asking, did we get through all your points or did you have more?
We actually have more. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Or am I running out of time? Okay, I have two more, but the last one's pretty quick.
Okay.
So this next one is AI, which is a hot topic right now. Should your brand be using it? The honest answer is it's up to you. You know, a lot of graphic design companies or advertising agencies use programs like Photoshop or InDesign. They're tools, and so is AI. As a standalone resource, AI is not there yet. Just pragmatically, it's not there as a standalone. I've yet to see AI generate a headline that's usable on its own merit. Remember, computers aren't the best at creating something new. They're really good at plagiarizing. So that's another reason too, you want to be careful if you're going to have it do your writing, because it might plagiarize. The graphic design capabilities are also limited, just in case you're thinking, well, I'll just, you know, get an AI program and I'll have it generate a logo for me. I don't recommend it. Now, sometimes I will use AI to look for ideas. It might spit out something kind of interesting, but I wouldn't use the AI generated logo. I may take inspiration of it and then do my own take of it, but that's as close as I would personally recommend anyone go with working with AI generated logos. But now I would like to seeing AI a little bit of praise. And the biggest success I found with it is generating images because they can look as real as we want them to, and they're pretty incredible. And I found this to be really helpful with a few of the clients that I work with that just don't have much of a budget yet. You know, if you're just starting off, you don't have a budget to do a big photo shoot. Photo shoots are expensive and time consuming, and even stock photography can get really pricey. And if that's the boat you're in, you can have photorealistic images that are exactly what you were looking for, and there's really no cost to it. And that's really exciting. The other part that's really cool about AI is if you have a really fantastic idea that would have been done with CGI a few years ago, you no longer have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to have a studio generate a fantastical image. You can create it in AI. I recently did a full commercial where each visual was done in AI. It was a national TV commercial for My Free Libraries. You know those tiny little libraries you see on a stick outside of residences.
Yeah.
They're across the country, and I did a commercial for them. And I wanted the commercials to be about all the fantastic places that reading can take our minds and imaginations. It had a child in space flying through the cosmos with an alien friend. It had people riding on the back of dragons. It was unreal. 10 years ago, that would have cost well over $100,000 to produce.
Wow.
We were able to do it all. Me and my friend did it all ourselves, for fun because we wanted to. And it was a blast. And I'm really proud of the commercial. So that was a really cool and fun way to use AI. So that's all I wanted to say about AI. Because again, a lot of budding businesses are probably wondering, should I be using it? And those are some strengths and weaknesses in my perception of where AI is right now.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's, I mean, a flavor of that I think applies in general in AI, meaning there's there's this whole big push and like webinars and sessions and uh, great, right? I tend to agree that we're pretty far in the journey, but there are definitely areas where things need to improve. So I would say just not even in terms of um, what we're talking about here in terms of branding and advertising, but in general, like there are some really good use cases to be able to leverage various tools and then put a spin on it. Or like you said, even with this commercial, is putting in the sweat to have really good prompts to be able to get you what you want, right? It's not just something like you magically press a button and everything comes up. It's like it takes some creativity and some thoughtfulness to generate what it is that you want, but it's definitely not going anywhere. It's just a tool that we need to be able to adapt to and not put our full faith or our full mistrust in it, right? Just know
Hmm.
what it is capable of and use it to the best of our abilities.
Yeah, I mean, it's like any tool. Like a hammer is a priceless tool for a carpenter,
Mm-hmm.
but a hammer's, it can only do so much. If you go out and try to fix your engine of your car and use nothing but a hammer, you're going to be in trouble. Um, but if you're a carpenter and you have to put up the walls, you need to nail them in place, and
Yep.
nothing can do better than that hammer.
Yep.
So AI has its place. You don't want to
Yeah.
use it everywhere, or it's going to be a disaster. But if you use it at the right times, it's pretty priceless.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point.
So the last part I wanted to discuss today, and it goes back to, I wanted to go full circle. It's about your investment. Scalability for budget is what I wanted to discuss. Um, I had promised that I would come from a place today of honesty and integrity when it comes to pricing and numbers. And again, I'm going to have a conversation with you that's probably going to make a lot of advertising people squirm. But things to talk about with an advertising partner or agency to get more bang for your buck. So here's the thing: there's no one size fits all price. That's just something that agencies get small business to feel pressured about to overspend. Don't overspend. You know your budget. You do have to spend. Like I said in the beginning, it's an investment, but you don't have to overspend. And let me clarify, I'm not saying, regardless of price, that everyone should get the same amount of creative. I'm not saying that because things do need to be fair. But regardless of size of your budget, everyone deserves the same attention to detail and everybody deserves the same quality, regardless of the size of your brand. Everybody. This just might mean changing the amount of creative options or executions you get. For instance, a major company with a huge budget might say, I want a new logo for this product, and I want to see 50 logo designs. That's great, but they have to pay for 50 logo designs.
Mm.
Someone with a modest budget might say, I want the same quality as those guys, but, I don't have a big budget. So can I see an exploration of 5? And there's nothing wrong with that. And then maybe take the 5 and say, okay, I like this one, but I like it changed a little bit because I'm thinking X, Y, and Z, and then
Mm.
make them work with you off the one you liked. But again, scalability. Um, and that's just scalability in number, but it should never be scalability in quality. Everybody deserves the exact same quality. If someone tries to sell it differently, they're just being self-serving and honestly a little bit lazy, in my opinion.
Mm.
Um, you know, I've spent my career, and I mentioned in the beginning, working on some really big brands. I've worked on some mid-level stuff too. Like Monterey Peninsula College is kind of regional. California Bank of Commerce is regional. And then I've done really small stuff like little boutique shops that are right here on the island where I live, or a soap company called Soap Bar SF that somebody runs, out of their kitchen. I've helped her out. And I'll tell you, I've given, whether it's Ram Truck or the woman making soap out of her kitchen, I'll give you the same level of detail. I'll give you the same level of quality. It's just about scalability. It's about working within the parameters of your budget. So true creative should be malleable, and you should hold your creative partners accountable and get the best product you can. And that's the only way that you're really gonna get a great investment with your money. So again, I would never, when I did I'm going to go back to something I already talked about. When I did the commercial for Ram Truck and I mentioned the train engine, Ram Truck had a lot of money. So when I filmed that, I rented a train and we filmed it with a train. Now, the lady building soap out of her kitchen, I wouldn't say, we need to rent you a train.
She couldn't afford that.
She couldn't afford that. But I may say to her, you know what? You do fresh ingredients. We need to get a bunch of fresh ingredients and set them all around and create this beautiful still life and take a photograph. I'm just using this as an example of your soap with that still life. So one involved renting a train, another involved a trip to the grocery store, but both got a high-end product. So the creative agency needs to know how to work within your budget to still give you something beautiful and not throw their hands up in the air and say, well, you don't have tons of money, I can't do this. There's always a solution within somebody's budget. It's up to a creative to be creative and find a way to do something great with your budget. So again, there should never be a quality dip. If they start talking about a quality dip or we can't afford this with your budget, someone's not being honest.
No, that's a really good point, and gives hope for the little guy, right? That doesn't have all the money maybe up front, and maybe that's something aspirational, is like as the business grows, they can afford to spend a little bit more money.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, AI is a great way to save money. Creating images. We could do a $15,000 photo shoot, or I could play with AI and make you something in my living room. It's really what's the best for your brand and the best use of your dollar.
Cool. Well, I know we've gone over a little bit, but that's totally okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. Don't be sorry. Do not be sorry. This will be on replay. And I'm good on my end. I know I said we stay around the 45-minute mark, but that's totally okay. Not a problem at all. I think there was like a lot of useful nuggets of information that people will be able to catch this, if not live, on the replays. So I am just really, really grateful for you, Joe, that you were able to make time and share a little bit of your wisdom and give us a little bit of peek behind the curtain.
Absolutely. And if anybody that sees this has questions, just reach out to me. I'll take a call with anybody. You don't owe me anything if you call me. I'll have a chat with you just because I want to help. Because I think we all need to network and we all need to help each other. Help is priceless, and we should all give it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Joe. I'll ask if you want to share here, like whatever the best way to contact you is, and we can also put it in the notes. But is that email? Is that a website? What's the best way to reach out to you if someone has interest?
They can email me. It's just simply cavewallcreative@gmail.com. So that's cavewallcreative@gmail.com.
Okay. Yeah. Just how it sounds, right? Wall Creative. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Xandra, for having me. I appreciate it. This was great.
Likewise.
All right.